Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us on this Monday morning. We are super excited that y'all are here and have decided to tune into KVOB 89.9, where we are telling stories our way. Welcome to the Stimulus with Ciore and Jonathan. We are super excited for Monday.
What's going on, family? It's your boy Jonathan, and we are in the building. Yo, it's a beautiful Monday. We're gonna start this week off right. We got plenty of positive energy, and we are ready to just be here with the family. I hope everybody out there is feeling good. I hope y'all are blessed. Feeling favored, and just in the Lord's presence. I'm really feeling good today. I'm really feeling good. Man. So, family, Kiora and I just had a conversation recently, and it was so special. Right before the show, we were just talking about where we are and how we feel about progression, execution, all the different things that are important to success. And it just feels so good to be able to not only have, a co-host that, shares in the same vision as you, but be able to share that vision with y'all, for us to be able to be those people that are, hopefully inspirational. And as we aim to inspire you all, we get that same inspiration back. So we've been talking about building this morning. Building. So Kiore,
Yes.
what does building mean to you? Like what's some of the things you've been working on, some of the things you've been thinking through, some of the things that's just been taking up a little space in your mind.
It's interesting that you say that because I feel like there's a lot that is constantly taking up space on my mind,
Uh-huh.
and it's because I'm extremely passionate around people. I'm passionate around execution. I'm passionate around mindset. I want to be aware of how I'm growing. I want to help other people grow and develop. And then I don't want it to just be something that happens in the moment. I want it to be change and impact that lasts over time. And so when I think about what I want that to look like, I get so many ideas, right? I'm like, oh, I want to support women. Oh, I want to support businesses. I want to support people of color. I want to support my family. I want people to just know that if they have a problem to solve, like, let's work it out together. And I just want to serve, serve, and serve. And so sometimes I get caught up in how do I serve as much as possible without asking for anything in return. But then I'm also teaching entrepreneurs. And so I'm like, is it really in my best interest to not be charging for the value that I believe and know that I can add? Then the other thing that I'm thinking about half the time is, okay, if I'm serving women in this area, I know I want to do that through the lens of hair and self-empowerment. And if I can just meet people where they are on an empowerment level, then it should translate into entrepreneurship and someone's ability to drive their own income. And then I'm over here in the business sector of things. And I think if I'm so focused on the business sector, like, is it appropriate to talk about mindset and the work that I do? And a lot of times I just defy what's tradition and I talk about mindset anyway. But then I'm thinking, do people want to pay for mindset when it comes to business, or should I be adding tangible value? And if I'm adding tangible value to under resourced and underserved communities, should I be charging for it? How much should I be charging for it?
Mm.
And then I'm like, okay, if I feel led to serve, and then I'm also passionate about all of these things, like, how do I bring them all together? And I feel like for the first 6 months of the year, I could just not figure out how to have a unified brand that was focused on all of those pieces about me.
Hmm.
And I feel like I'm finally at this point where I know that I want to teach organizations and people how to advocate with power. That could be, how do you support the people in your business? How do you support the product that you have? How do you, be more empowered yourself? How do you help to encourage and empower other people? So I feel like I've finally landed in on this tagline. But what does that look like to make money? Because how do you decide profit versus passion versus purpose? So it's like, these are the things that are on my mind. These are the things that keep me up. These are the things that also sometimes keep me in the same position. And I think that's
Hmm.
one reason that I'm always so focused on let's just get started, and I'm constantly preaching. It doesn't matter if you have it all figured out, how do you just get started? But one thing that I realized earlier in our conversation, John, is like, I don't know if I'm afraid of this idea to start, but I definitely never considered that one thing that does hold me up personally is this idea that you can start something the wrong way.
Hmm.
And I just know that there's so much that I want to accomplish. And I know I've been through so much in life. I'm like, I don't want to take any more scenic routes to learn what I need to learn.
Sometimes you got to see a little scenery to get there. Almost
Exactly.
every time. Yeah.
Exactly. But the scenic route to me also symbolized sacrifice. And so I'm just like, okay, I know like the Lord isn't intending for me to struggle through the things that I want in life. And so that can prevent me from wanting to get started a specific way.
Hmm.
But yeah, John, there's a lot that I'm constantly thinking
A lot,
about.
obviously.
Right. But I feel like
Obviously.
so many people are thinking about this many things at once, and sometimes it feels like, okay, you asked me in passing and you probably weren't really expecting me to say anything, and so how do I choose in 30 seconds to tell you what's on my mind so it doesn't overwhelm you? But the reality is my thoughts can be overwhelming. So what
Yeah.
about you? What about you, John?
Yeah, I know you gave us some pretty good insight as to what's going on in Kiori's world. And a huge thing that I heard was like how to quantify your value.
Mm,
How like you know that you're skilled, you know that you have so much to offer, you know that you can come into any organization and make a difference. The whole goal is to like go into anything and make it better than you found it, right? And then also like what does that mean for you? What does that mean for your personal brand? And not only any organization, but just a part of the community, just any friend group or any circle that you might be a part of. You hope that the value that you provide is going to be larger, right? And then it also makes you think like, okay, I know I have these gifts, these tools. What does this mean? This purpose that we're searching for, this route, like, do we have to take the scenic route to get to where we want to go? Is there ever a such thing as a straight and narrow path? On the stimulus, do we believe in just doing what's conventional? Or do we believe in taking risks? And sometimes taking risks might mean taking the scenic route. It's going to mean some figuring out. You have to do some reconfiguring, going back to the drawing board, doing this and that. But it always is. One thing we can guarantee is you're gonna feel a little level of frustration a little bit along the way.
yes.
You might be banging your head up against the wall trying to figure out, man, what is it that God put me here for? And I think that that's a common theme, and that's something that you and I are always thinking through as what's our purpose. And really, how do we make the most? Let's be honest. How do we make the most money? If you know that you're talented, you want to be compensated for that. You want to feel as if your contribution is being acknowledged in a way that's monetary. So I mean, I think it's very important. And I mean, for me myself, I have been trying to think about which pathway do I want to take. Since I've been in real estate, it's been a beautiful journey. I'll be honest. It's been a journey that I honestly couldn't have predicted. I couldn't have wrote it down. I could not have said I'm going to do this first and then this and then I'm going to see this and then this is going to make more sense and then I'm going to do a complete 180 and then I'm going to go this way and then I might make a left turn and then I might go straight and then zigzag. So it looks different, and I think that it's good to have a sounding board. It's good to have an advisory. A council of advisors, because we can't always leave it up to ourselves to make our own decisions and to really be the ones that insert our own wisdom. Prayer is a huge part of that, but really just making sure that the people around you are able to give sound advice, because it's hard to try to figure out all these things on your own. I know if it was left up to me to make any and every decision, who knows. Who knows. I think all those things are important, but we're all in this together.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is super critical. You do have to have a group of people around you who are invested in you becoming your better version of you.
Hmm.
Because one thing we know about ourselves is we can overthink. I know I can overthink better than probably anyone else
Too
out there.
much. over
Yeah.
Overthink yourself up all night. You can't even sleep.
Right. I know I can do it. But sometimes I need people who are around me to just be like, Ciore, snap out of it. Like, do this.
Shake you a little bit,
My
pour some
dad,
water on your face.
my dad used to he used to call me, and I would tell him like, man, I'm worried about all of these things, and I'd probably be talking for 10-15 minutes, and then he'll just be like, Kia, and I'm just like on this whole rant, and I'm like, yes, and he's like, so what is it that you really need to do? And I'll be like, well, really just these two things. And he was like, okay, go do that. So it wasn't,
Hangs up.
it's not even like a whole reflection situation. Sometimes it's getting you out of your own way.
Get out your own head. Yeah,
execute.
exactly.
Yeah.
Man. And sometimes we when we say start with the end in mind, sometimes it could be to our detriment. Yeah. Because you were thinking like, I want to be here. How do I take over the world? And you like, the world's a big place. Which route do I go? Which avenue am I going to go down? What do I do? And it's like, okay, let's back up. Let's pause. Let's take a deep breath and let's think, what's the first course of action that you need to take to even get to that next step?
What do you need to do today?
That could even be replying to an email.
Right.
That could be sending an email. That could be setting up that meeting. That could be applying for the position that you want. That could be starting your LLC. It could be those little minute details that contribute to the bigger picture. And we have to be careful not to focus so much on the bigger picture sometimes, but think about what are the tangible steps that we need to take in order to get there. And really, when you're able to focus on that, you can focus. And when I say focus, I mean give yourself a level of peace and solace as to where you know what you need to do
right now,
not where you want to be 10-15 years from now, not trying to say, okay, I need to meet up with this CEO or whatever, just something that's honestly unrealistic. You got to write the vision and make it plain. You got to be practical, and you got to make sure that you that you ordering your steps, what I'm saying, using that right guidance.
I feel like it's hard, because if you are just listening to people's advice and feedback and their journey, people will say, know your why, right? Mm-hmm. And your why could be rooted in your vision for the future, right? And then it's like, okay, how do I tackle that? Mm-hmm. When really your vision for your future is not what you should be tackling over the next 3 months. Like, you should be tackling a subset of what it's going to take to get you there. Yeah. And so how do you know when your motivation should be rooted in the future and when your action should be rooted right now? And I think it's hard to toggle between the two. Like, remembering what you want, remembering why you're started, but not getting caught up in those things for so long that it's keeping you from being inactive right now.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah. And somewhat to that point, and somewhat of a separate point, is what I see myself doing is being a visionary. Like, when you consider yourself a visionary, you think really big picture and you think of high level, and sometimes you're like 10,000 feet up when you need to kind of bring it down a little bit. Sometimes, speaking to myself, I find it hard to just be concise, because sometimes part of that journey could be being able to answer the question of, okay, what do you want? What do you need? And if you can't answer that in maybe 1 to 2 sentences, then you might have some more figuring out to do, and I think that that's a huge part of the process as well. Cause similar to what you were saying when you're talking to your dad and he's saying, okay, you said all of this, but let's just really focus on what really needs to be done. What do you need right now? What's it going to take to get you to that next level? And sometimes just thinking in that in like segmented pieces, kind of breaking it down, it just makes it so much easier. And y'all, I don't know if this applies to anybody else. Maybe I'm just speaking to myself right now because
to me.
because it's so important to make sure that you can be concise, because I've had meetings and I've had conversations, and it's like, man, I'm sitting here literally talking about all of this about building an empire, and it's like, okay, well, we need to start brick by brick. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So what that makes me think of too is that sometimes we get so caught up in trying to describe our vision to people, and they may not always get it. Yeah. And I think a big piece of that is because your vision is for you, and it's not always shown to other people. So the question would be, how can you tell them what they can do to help you right now? And one thing that we talk about in business often is that people are not investing in the specific product. A lot of times they're investing in the brand, or in the person or in the story. And you just think how many people have talked to us, John, that's like, we don't even know what your vision is, but we know y'all about to do something and we want to invest in that, And so I think sometimes we feel like we have to make our vision known to other people for them to be able to support us and add value. And I think sometimes we just want the affirmation ourselves that we're not crazy about what we're experiencing or what we want. When the reality is, it's like no one can really validate that within us other than God. Like you have to know that whether you seem crazy or not, what you're going after is what is for you. But again, it kind of goes back to how do you focus on what you can work on right now, knowing that you're going to leverage whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision to get you closer to the ultimate goal.
Man, shout out to those folks that believe in the vision. Shout out to those folks that have that are advocates of the stimulus of Ciore and I, that they just want to be a part of what we got going on. Because the vision is not always going to make sense, and it's not a vision if you know exactly how you're going to get there, right? So, man.
Well, in the words of, I almost said like P. Willie, but it's Willie Moore Jr. now. He said, if people don't laugh at your dream, it ain't big enough. Dream on. And it's like, that's where we at.
Like, boy, you crazy.
That is exactly where we at.
You said, what you gonna do? Yeah, I don't know about that. It's never been done before.
Yeah. And you know what?
It must,
them better not be your advisors.
Right.
Right.
Be careful who you share that vision with.
Right.
Be confident in what you got going on, even if it doesn't make sense right now.
Right. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Well, one of the biggest things that I've heard is that when you get a good mentor around you, like someone who's actually done it before, they're not actually telling you if your vision makes sense or it doesn't. They're helping you to calibrate on what your next step should be.
Like, how can I make you most successful right now?
Like, if you believe in this, I'm going to help you accomplish that. They don't even have to understand. Those have been the most influential and significant people in my life who are like, if that's what you're working on, great. Because they're not going to be the ones motivating you, getting you out of bed, making sure that you're focused on that every single day. Like, that's not their job.
Yeah. And speaking of vision, that brings me to our very special guest today, because it absolutely takes vision to be able to accomplish what my man has accomplished. And that is being able to provide a grocery store within a food desert, being able to bring resources to the under-resourced. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Being that community advocate. So that's none other than my man, Aaron AJ Johnson. Let me tell you a little bit about my man, AJ. Owner of Oasis Fresh Market. Shout out to Oasis, y'all. If you haven't been there, you need to go shop. If you just went grocery shopping, I'm sure there's at least one more thing you can buy. Support the vision. So AJ graduated from the University of Tulsa with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Management. AJ is an active person in the community, having served as a community leader in Leadership Tulsa, Class 47. Shout out to Leadership Tulsa. 47. I know some folks.
I'm in there now. But I think we like 64.
Hey, OG. Yeah. So Leadership of Tulsa, also Leadership Oklahoma 2021-2022. Also serves as a community leader in the Rotary Club, graduate of John Maxwell Leadership Program, named Oklahoma Magazine's 40 Under 40 twice. 2017 and 2021. Big time.
Sweating.
He's currently getting his master's in leadership at Oral Roberts University, and is also a member of the Stage and Leadership Institute. Now, during the pandemic, it highlighted AJ as someone to, again, bring that vision in the North Tulsa as starting to create separation in what was once a food desert. So AJ brought he brought the importance of equitable access to sustainable groceries.
Don't even read anymore.
It's so much, man.
Don't read anymore.
All the things.
You know what? I'm actually cutting it off because there's a lot more in his bio.
Yeah, don't read it.
Man of many talents, much experience.
How about this? We're gonna break it off and say CEO of Oasis Fresh Market.
Hey, Oasis.
Yeah, so I know y'all feel the energy in the building. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with AJ. Quick commercial break. Stay tuned.
Hey, it's Denise with Addie Mae's Food for the Soul, where we cater to vegan, pescatarian, and everyday sultry soul food. We have meatloaf Mondays, taco Tuesdays, chicken wing Wednesday, turkey and dressing Thursday, fish Fridays, barbecue Saturdays, and Sundays is our sultry soul foods. We're located at 5266 North Peoria. You can contact us for call-in orders at 918-845-2989, and we also deliver with DoorDash. Hope to see you soon.
Food on the Move and Morton Comprehensive Health Services presents the Drive-Through COVID Vaccination Clinic, happening May the 11th, 2021 from 4 to 7 p.m. The first 100 participants receive 2-dose Modernas or the 1-dose Johnson & Johnson. If you want to skip the line, call now at 918-388-1990. Food on the Move every Tuesday on Greenwood. Let's go fresh, Tulsa.
How to order chicken wings. Number 1, find a good wing spot.
I know a wing spot, Max Wings.
Number 2, decide if you want a combo or if you want to order a la carte.
Huh? What's that?
Well, combos come with chicken, veggie sticks, fries, and a drink for a discounted price. A la carte means that you order each item separately.
Okay.
3, decide if you want bone-in, boneless, or cauliflower wings. And then determine the delicious flavor you want on your wings.
I didn't even know cauliflower had wings.
You learn something new every day. Have you been to Max Wings?
Yep.
Max Wings is located at 782 East Pine Street in Tulsa. We're open Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Come to Max Wings, home of the dry rub fries.
Welcome back, y'all. So we are super excited for our special guest today. We know that the conversation is getting ready to be electric. And there's going to be so many gems that if y'all do not have your pen and paper, now is the time to get it. You should have got it during the commercial break, but now is also a good time to get it during the intro of exactly who Mr. AJ is. So, AJ, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into questions, because we have questions.
Man, first of all,
how you feeling? How you feeling? First of all, man?
It is a magnificent Monday. M&M, baby, magnificent Monday.
Say that.
And you know, the thought that came to me this morning, Mondays, my alarm goes off at 3, so I'm intentional about starting my Mondays off. And this morning, I was like, "Dang, I'm tired." But the thought that came to me was everything you want and need is outside your comfort zone.
Yes, sir.
The moment that went through my mind, them sheets was off. That shower was running. I take a shower to wake me up in the morning before I go to the gym. And so I'm grateful to be here. Everything we want and need is outside of our comfort zone. We'll come back to that. But my name is AJ, owner of the Oasis Fresh Market. I'm the founder of the Oasis Project, which is our nonprofit 501c3. And what was once a food desert, there's now an oasis.
Man, that's special. All right, so just give us a little background as to how this whole project came together.
Okay, so first of all, obviously the pandemic, set our world on fire, essentially, or turned the world upside down. And prior to that, I had been in conversation with Rose Washington. Everybody knows Rose. She's the hero.
Woo, woo.
Whoop, whoop, Rose TDC. And so the city had these funds, and they were supposed to put in a grocery store years ago. And different things happened in the past. And I was at dinner with some friends. Actually, the deputy mayor, Kasha Carr, shout out, also black. Shout out, deputy.
Black women out here.
Hey, out here killing it. Hey,
I love it, man. I'm a black woman advocate.
Hey, let's go. They rising up, taking over. I love it. And so I was at dinner with her and her husband, and she said, "Hey, AJ, do you know anybody that's black that's got grocery experience? Rose is looking for somebody." Her husband actually started laughing. He was like, AJ's got grocery experience. He was a regional manager at Aldi. And she was like, what? So she serves on Rose's board. And I guess they'd been looking for someone for a while. Long story short, the next day I was at a chamber meeting. If you're not on the chamber, join the Black Chamber, join the Tulsa Regional Chamber. It's important. We'll come back to that too. I'm dropping just nuggets along the way because it's about relationship, like you all were talking about before. Anyway, got connected to Rose, and Rose is like, "You're the answer. I don't know what you're doing, but you're it." And I'm like, "Hey, in North Tulsa, certain people, let's do it." And so, fast forward, we ground broke June of 2020. We had a groundbreaking ceremony for Oasis, and now we opened the store May 17th, 2021, and today is our 107th day. As an owner, you got to know your metrics. Yeah, 107th day that we have been open, and it has been hard.
Okay. Hey, give us the real, man. Don't sugarcoat it.
You know what? People think, people are like, "Oh man, AJ, you a business owner? Yeah, you got the $7 million grocery store. Yeah, you richest." Yeah. And
let me hold something.
Let me hold something. I'm like, yeah, hold them chips that you're about to buy on aisle 10 because that's what I need.
Right.
People don't know the sacrifice. Mm-hmm. They don't know. There's 24 hours in a day, but it feels like you're working 26 hours a day. The late nights, missing your family. There's been times that I've gone home. It'll be about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and my hands are on a steering wheel, and I'm shaking. When I get hungry, that's an indicator. Mm-hmm. But because you're on the go so much as a business owner, you just forget. It's not that your stomach's not saying you're hungry. You just have so much to do. And there's been times that I will drive home and I'll just be shaking because you forgot to eat all day long because there's so much going on. And
Can I just speak to the irony in working at a grocery store and forgetting to eat?
Come on, hey, it's crazy. It is crazy. My family and friends, my wife would be like, "Why are you starving at 8 o'clock at night?" And it's like, you literally don't even see it as food because you're serving.
That's inventory.
It's like I'm not going to, people are like, "Oh, AG, you work at a restaurant, why don't you take it off your shelf?" If I'm not buying it, which I'm always going to buy it, but it's not, that thought doesn't even cross my mind. Like, oh, I can grab that apple and eat it going around the store. Like, but anyway, owning the business, it is transformational, especially today being a minority owned business. I believe we are the only Black grocery store in the state. I'm researching that we're the only one in Tulsa for sure, but I'm currently researching across the state. But what I found so far is we literally might be the only Black owned grocery store in the state.
So
let's not talk about the fact it's 2021, but continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's like and I don't want to take you off on a tangent or anything because we got to hear the story, but it's like to say that and knowing that there was how many Black towns in Tulsa, in Oklahoma? You know what I'm saying? So like,
and Oklahoma was almost once going to be a Black state,
right? This is about to be the Black free state. This is going to be, this is for us,
Wakanda.
You know what I'm saying?
A real life Wakanda.
And I feel like there's probably some vibranium in Oasis.
Hey,
that's your power source.
Hey,
so how does that make you feel? Is there power in that? Do you feel like it's a duty, or is it more so like frustrating? Is it all those things?
It is one, most definitely my duty, and I feel responsibility and really my life call to break that cycle of generational poverty by showing people if I can do it. And I should be a statistic. Like a lot of my friends growing up ended up going to jail, got caught up in wrong things. I should be one of those Black statistics that we have today. But thank God for my football coach that, dragged me by my neck. Like, no matter what, you're going to make right choices. But I definitely feel like I didn't have a Black role model growing up that was a business owner. My family were always employees and never the employer. And so now for my daughter and hopefully other high school students and really boys and girls of all ages, grandmas, single parent moms, I grew up in a single parent home, to show single parent moms that, hey, what you invest in your kid will pay off. because my mom had 3 or 4 jobs, working all the time, and now we're at a place where I'm a first generation business owner, as a Black man, youngest in my family, and so owning a business is not easy. You got to have this level of appetite, but you also have to know your, like you were talking about, Ciore, that why. For me, part of my why is I want to help show and be the example, like you all, to hundreds of thousands, millions and millions of Blacks, minorities, to say, hey, if I can do it, you definitely can do it.
Before we get too far down, one thing I'm curious about, not the story of every of your entire background, because I know we could get into that, but if you think about in your life to date, how many different hats you've worn, how many different titles you've had, can you just give us a rundown of your experience according to your title, so people know the various experiences you could be speaking to?
Wow, good question. So at 11, I was a male nanny. Ooh, yeah, at 11.
At 11.
Then 13, I was a Reese's bag boy at Reese's, right stuff, right price, but now it's Oasis, baby.
That's where it started.
I started at Reese's. I was there for 2 years. At 16, opened my own lawnmower business. Did that all the way through high school. Then I worked at University of Tulsa. I worked at a summer fun daycare. I worked at a daycare my senior year of high school. Need that money. Then freshman year in college, I worked in the activity center. Then I worked at Pfizer for 3 or 4 summers as an intern. Took a job at Aldi, regional manager. Then moved back to Tulsa after that. Was there for 2 years. 2 years. Moved back to Tulsa, was in Omaha, Nebraska. Moved back to Tulsa, was an operations manager. Then I was an HR director, an executive pastor at Victory, executive director of Tulsa Dream Center, owner and founder of Oasis Fresh Market.
So
that's a resume.
9 or 10 different.
Yeah. What stands out to me more than anything is your experience is deeply drenched in working with people and customer service. From daycare, you learn parents and kids right away. You know, you learn how to be very gentle and assertive at the same time.
And it takes a level of maturity to do that as well.
Yeah. Then we talk about groceries, having to walk people's groceries to their car whenever you're young. What does that customer service look like on a one-to-one basis, right? But then you also think about like how someone has to manage you as an adult when you were a young person, and like you learning to manage up really quickly because you can't change their mind as a 15, 16-year-old. You know, like they have a certain way they like things done. And I feel like as we grow up as youth, we're like, man, when we get in that position, we're never going to do it like that, right? Then you work in HR. Then you work as in the activity center, and then as a pastor. And so the thing that I'm hearing you say is you're not just working with one profile of people. You have worked with people across all industries, across lots of different topics. You know, you have helped people in their day-to-day lives. Grocery shopping is a very intimate practice. Okay? Pastoring a church is a very intimate practice. Taking care of somebody's kids is a very intimate practice, right? But then being able to have the corporate side of things too, to understand the importance of process, leadership, managing, that there are multiple different types of people. So I just wanted to pull those things out of your experience to let the audience know that we're not dealing with someone who is not an expert in people. But even beyond that, thinking about our topic today, what role does faith, hope, and love play in owning a business?
Yeah.
You seem to be the person to know. So what would you say?
Wow. You know, in the end, the most important thing that we'll hear at the end of our life, that we can hear, and when we'll all hear really, is well done, thou good and faithful servant. Serving is the greatest thing that we can do. And serving comes in a lot of different forms. Whether it's if you have a neighbor, you know that they might be sick, dropping off some soup over there. You have somebody that needs their grass mowed because they don't have kids nearby, mowing their grass. Serving comes in an unlimited form. Somebody doesn't have an air conditioning unit. You got a little extra money, go buy that air conditioning unit. Serving comes in many different ways. But serving is the greatest thing that we can do. And I believe that people and relationships are our greatest currency.
Absolutely.
You all are here today as a result. You're telling me your story as a result of seeing that group. And all of a sudden that group me, and all of a sudden y'all got connected. And then the relationship, and now y'all are here.
Mm-hmm.
Had you not had a relationship with each other, y'all wouldn't be doing this.
I agree 1,000%.
And so everything, that's why it's so important how you treat people. It is so important when you think that someone is less than you. John Maxwell says something that I try to live by. You should call no one a friend if you don't know their name. Knowing the janitor's name, knowing that cleaner's name, knowing that cashier's name at the bank, and even if you don't know their name, how you treat them is so important.
Yeah. And in the same aspect is like, you can really tell a lot about somebody by how they treat those people that, are serving them, like the waiters or like the janitors. You really see a person's character by how they treat people based on their different, places.
You know what I try to do in every restaurant. We need to go to break. In every restaurant, the first thing I try to do is say, "Hey, friend, what's your name?" Mm-hmm. And I let them know right off the beginning, "Hey, I know you got a lot going on, but I promise you'll get a good tip on we're going to take care of you." Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, it doesn't matter how busy they are. All of a sudden, we get 10 more checks than everyone else. Why? Because they know I care about you, but also we hungry, so you care for me. I promise you.
I'm gonna look out for your pockets.
I'm gonna look out for your pockets. 20% at minimum.
Yes.
At a minimum, because it's about serving people, and even how you serve people that you think will never be able to do anything for you. That is most important.
It's major.
Sometimes we only want to treat people nice that we know are going to do something for us. Mm-hmm. Well, I know if I do this for you because I need you to get this report, or I know I'm going to do this for you because next week you're gonna wash my car. No. How are you going to treat people that will never be able to repay you?
I think this is such a fascinating topic, and I think for a lot of folks, we understand the golden rule: treat people the way you like to be treated. One thing we talk about on the show often is just mental health and mindset. And if I think about how you serve people who can't do anything for you in return, right? It's one thing when people can't do anything for you in return. Mm-hmm. What I have struggles with is when I'm serving someone who I know could add value in return and they choose not to. And how do I continue to show them grace and favor and not feel like they're holding something from me? This is something that I've been working on for a very long time. And I feel the higher that I elevate in my career and how I run businesses and lead people, I always have to remind myself it's not about them.
Yeah.
But I am curious, how do you continue to serve people, not who can't help themselves, but who choose not to help you and they can?
Something that I also try to live by and recognize as we grow in our wisdom and our success is that more means more. The higher up you go in the ladder, great, that may come with more pay, more opportunity, more exposure. That also comes with more problems.
Yeah.
That also comes with more staff. That also could come with more headaches. That also could mean more conflicts. That also could mean more inventory. Could also be more money made, but more money lost. Mm-hmm. More assets, but more liabilities. Right. More means more across the board.
Yeah.
And so as you go up, you're going to meet more people, but that means that also means there are more people that like you, but some people that don't like you.
Yeah.
So it comes with the territory as you elevate. And I think as people go up, if you go into it, not necessarily with an expectation, but for me, I go into it with an expectation that I will be the best in the room, no matter what room I'm in.
I do have a follow-up.
I love it.
I have a follow-up for you, though, because when you operate in that way, knowing that more means more, one thing that I find myself kind of stressing over at times, and we've talked about it on the last few episodes, is you get to a point at the season you're in where you feel like you've mastered it. You've overcome the sacrifices you've had to make. You feel like you're finally good. And some would argue that you could say that you're comfortable. right?
Mm.
And you have this vision that you want to, obtain, but in order to do that, you have to level up. And so while there's a lot of good at the next level, there's also just more problems at the next level.
Very true, but your growth is dependent on you, not on anyone else.
Yeah.
That's why growth is not automatic. Growth is intentional.
It's intentional.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what room or what space that you're in, even if somebody has a boss or a leader over them, a supervisor that puts a lid, the law of the lid. No matter how good you do, they're going to keep this lid on you. The lid is not up to them. The lid really is up to you, because you can continue to grow in spite of. You can continue to be an expert in your area, and sooner or later, you'll either make the decision that, man, it's my time to go, or someone's going to go, oh, snaps. That person right there is fired. Let me get little AJ over in that department to come over to this department. So your gifts will make room for you. So the greatest investment that you can make to yourself is adding value to you. It doesn't matter who is over the top of you. Over my course of many different opportunities, yeah, I've had people that had lids on me, but I made a decision. I'm the greatest investment. I am my greatest investment. I can't give you 9 hours of my day, and then all of a sudden I'm only doing 30 minutes on myself. What?
I love it so much, because it's like that is like something that fuels entrepreneurship at its core. Is, you control your own destiny.
You do.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can sit here and you can say, man, they not gonna promote me. I've been asking for a raise for 3 years now. They don't care about giving me a raise. And you just sit there, you can settle. Or you could decide, no, I'm going to realize my goals and my dreams, and I'm going to go after it. And
I'm going to outperform everybody in my field. That makes it so to the point that the numbers go, snaps. Why do they get 10 times everyone else?
And you putting that work in.
Producing.
Executing.
John and I, John and I were just talking about this. Like, we're like, what's it going to take to get from here to there? Produce.
What does the Bible say? The Bible says, I pray that you will have fruit, and fruit that will remain. So fruit, is that good? Fruit is something that is evident. You don't have to walk by an apple tree and go, if it's got these big, luscious red apples, you don't go, I wonder what kind of tree that is. No, it's evident by looking at it that that's an apple tree. It's evident when it's pumpkin patch time and you go to the pumpkin patch, or Christmas season time. It's evident that that's a Christmas farm or Christmas tree patch, a pumpkin patch. Why? Because it's producing. It has produced. Your life should be producing something that if no one could see what you say, but see what you do, they know that's fruit.
Let your results talk for you. Exactly. One thing that stuck to me is I heard somebody say, you never got to apologize for being successful.
Never.
You know what I'm saying? If you do what you got to do, sometimes you might have to sacrifice. You might not be able to talk to people for a while. But when you get those results and people can see that you have been putting that work in on the back end, there's not much more that you can say. You don't need to say it. And really just working it towards, you no longer got to introduce yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, one reason that's true is because you don't have to apologize for being successful, because when you produce, whether the person above you gives you an opportunity or not, someone else will identify the value that you added, and then they will step in and help to keep you going. So I like what you said about the lid. You can bust that lid off, and then people will be better able to identify, oh, I like what you have going on.
Yeah. And people that are in a lid, others around them know that they're in a lid. But it is how you respond, not how you react. The world is reacting. You go on social media, it's a bunch of reactions. It's a bunch of opinions. Don't get caught up in the reaction. It's how you respond. Hey, in spite of this lid, I'm going to serve you. In spite of this lid, I'm going to show up on time. In spite of this lid, I'm going to always supersede your expectations. You say, oh, I need that report in 2 weeks. Oh, I'm going to give it to you in 2 days. And it's going to be the best report you've ever seen. Oh, well, I didn't need it that soon. Oh, that's fine. I can go into the next project. And all of a sudden, what's that saying? Don't feed the bears. I can't think of it. Something. But what I'm saying is, always supersede expectations, because you will always be paid for your worth, to the level of your worth. So I want to be paid more. So what am I going to do? I'm going to serve more. How many people are waking up at 3:00 in the morning on Monday mornings? The rest of the week I wake up at 4:00, but on Monday mornings, so over a course of a month, that's 4 extra hours that I've invested into myself. Except today it was only 45 minutes because I didn't get out of bed at 3:15. But
slacking.
45 times 4, I don't know, what's that math? 45 times 4, Kiyo, are you the smart one?
That's about 3 hours.
Okay, so I invest an extra 3 hours a month in myself, not including the hour that I do thereafter, then not including every time I'm in the car, I don't listen to music anymore. I'm listening to something that's going to add value, invest into myself. So all of a sudden, throughout the course of, let's just say, an average work day that people work, not an entrepreneurship world, 8 hours. Over 8 hours, if I'm in my car a lot, I've invested 15-minute increments, and all of a sudden, I'm working 8, but I actually invested 4 back into myself over a period of time, or 3, not including. So you should always be, you are your greatest asset. You are your greatest resource. You are your greatest investment. Why would you give 8 hours a day to someone and not invest in yourself?
That's so true. And time is a non-renewable resource. It's the one thing that we will never get back.
Never.
So, when it comes to owning a business, and when it comes to all the responsibilities that you have, and understanding that more is more, and when you see these elevated levels of responsibility and opportunity, do you also feel like you owe it to yourself that as you elevate, you want to provide more to your family?
For sure. And here's the thing, you should always work yourself out of a job. Right now, I'm actively looking for what other Black person can I mentor to raise up to take Oasis. Not that I want them to take Oasis, but I need to be investing in myself and investing in someone else. You can't teach what you don't know.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So I need to be investing in myself in this industry, so that way I can teach someone else. So that way I can go 10, 20, 1,000 more Oasis. All of a sudden they look around. There's 1,000 store managers that are Black across the country. Wow. Of those 1,000, 500 of them became owners. Even if it's not owners in Oasis, they became owners of something else. Why? Because the principles are the same. In any business, the principles are the same. How you treat people, staffing, processes, it's all the same. It doesn't matter what industry, everything is the same. So my goal has been, how am I reproducing other Black owners that look like me, that look like me, sound like me? How am I reproducing myself? So if you're in a job, your listeners are in a job and they feel like they're in the lid, reproduce yourself. Be the best at your position, and then find somebody. Hey, little Jay, little Sally, I'm gonna teach you this. So all of a sudden, you're looking at your boss like, hey, I need more reports. Well, what have you been doing all day? Oh, it's already done, sir. It's already done, ma'am. Oh, really? Well, who did it? I gave it to you at 9:00. Yeah, it's 9:30. It's already done. All of a sudden, you reproduce yourself. So then they have to go, shoot. So then the promotion, your gift will make room for you. Your gift will make room for you. What are you doing with your gift? I'll stop talking.
Well, I love this.
I'm sweating. She got me fired up.
I love it.
I love this. And, if we think about what role does faith, hope, and love play in business, I like what you say around duplicating yourself, because the way that I lead, first and foremost, is I need to teach people that they are value and they bring value to the table, no matter what their experience is. Period. Like, I need people to have such a high sense of self-worth on my team for them to be able to produce when I'm not there.
Confidence.
Then right after that, it's like, okay, how do we help you become really resourceful really fast? So that doesn't look like me answering all the questions all the time, but it looks like when there's a mistake made, there has to be grace. I can't teach someone how to problem solve and then they get in trouble for problem solving wrong.
Yeah.
And good. So it's like, I am constantly thinking about, how do I create strong critical thinkers who are extremely resourceful, who know how to go out and find answers where I'm there or not. And when people make mistakes, they don't bash those folks, but if they make a mistake, they don't feel bad about coming to tell me, because a win for them is a win for me, so it's like, I want them to win, but I tell people, you don't have to be perfect to win. As long as we are learning
making
as
progress.
we are going, like,
you don't have to be perfect. You just got to make progress.
Right. But you think about, like, how many people can say they believe that their boss loves them? You know, it's a really strange thing because we're talking about something very intimate in a professional setting. But I think a lot of times people forget that professionals are people first. You know, like
That's right.
clients are people first. So how are we loving people, showing grace and patience, and teaching people, you know, all of the things that are part of love? Even discipline is a part of love. You know, like how are we loving people?
Well, you say something that's so good. I think as entrepreneurs, as leaders, one thing that we can do is figure out how to add value to your staff. So one thing in the interview process, I try to ask those that are being interviewed to be hired is I say, what's your dream? What's in your heart? Because I'm in so many different, and as entrepreneurs, we're all in so many different circles, opportunities, conversations. If I'm in a conversation and I hear, oh man, I want to teach a cooking class. Oh my goodness, Reba she wants to know how to cook. Hey Reba, man, you know what? Thank you. I don't want to know how to cook, but I need you to work with my employee. She's going to be a great one. All of a sudden, wow, he remembered. I added value to her, and I wasn't even the value add. I connected her to something that made her passionate. So you talk about love. A way that I try is to identify and ask, what's important to you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you value? If you had a dream and there was no money was an issue, what would you do? And they say, oh man, I want to do this. I remember that so that I'm in a conversation. Someone goes, oh man, real estate snaps. I got the perfect person for you on that. Hey, could you have a conversation with him? And all of a sudden, I'm getting ready to buy a house because you connect. So I believe you can show love even in a professional way by adding value back to those that work with you, for you, under you, whatever.
Because other people winning doesn't take away from your win.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. When you invest in other people's dreams, you'll realize yours, and you'll be on step in progress without even really knowing it. When you remove yourself and you're selfless and you lead with others in mind, it goes back to what you were saying initially: is being a servant. How important it is to serve, and honestly, I feel like that's one of the ways you can get closest to God. You know, because going back to what we said earlier is like God gives to us knowing that there's no way that we could ever return the favor.
Ever repay. And you know, when Jesus came in there, what did he do? He washed the feet.
He washed the feet.
He washed the feet of his disciples.
It's important. I feel like a good leader is somebody that's a servant, somebody that is able to be there and really support and promote the people that are under them, that are following them, and be there in like lead the charge with them. I mean, that's incredible.
In relationship, right? Like that's the thing that you started, that we've all kind of been talking about is how critical relationship is. If the motivating factors for us as human beings is fulfillment, faith, you know, being a part of something that's bigger than ourselves, like we cannot do that without relationship. So what does it look like to create relationship with people that you don't know? AJ, how do you encourage folks who are scared to network? Because that's what we hear a lot of times. It's like, okay, I feel like I know what I need to do on the whole business piece, but networking just really scares me. How do you tackle that?
Great question. People honestly think that I'm an extrovert. I'm really not. I'm an introvert. However, I have learned as a skill, as a trade, to communicate with people. And I believe going into these spaces, even if it is the same questions, get a few questions together. Hi, my name is AJ. I'm with Oasis. Where are you from? Oh man, I'm from the Juice Radio Show. Okay. Man, what is that? Tell me about that. Get people talking about themselves.
Yes.
The greatest way to network, people want to talk about themselves more than they want to talk about you.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden you go into this networking event, there's 30 people, you feel nervous, you're sweating, you're like, snaps, did I put deodorant on? Where's my breath mint? I don't have no gum. You always need to have gum and breath mint or something. But get them talking about yourself. Hi, I'm AJ. I've got 3 kids. You have any kids? All of a sudden, oh man, I've got 20. Let me show you. And all of a sudden, they are giving you information by talking. And if you're really listening, you will learn about them. Oh my goodness, okay. His wife's an attorney. Wow, he goes to University of Tulsa. Man, I went to University of Tulsa. Where did you graduate? Bam. And all of a sudden, hey, why don't you come over there? Let's go bowling next week. And all of a sudden, you always want to, I shouldn't say always. 2 things my counselor taught me. You should never say, you should, and as I say it, you should not say never and always.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You should not say never and always. But the point that I'm trying to make is try to find something to connect with that person.
I have a question.
Question. Tell me what you think about me.
Hey, no.
Yay.
So I am a little biased on this. Do you hear testimonies or stories of women building networking relationships in the same way that guys do?
No.
Because I don't hear it at all. I could talk to John about someone he met yesterday, and then John spent the next 5 days hanging out just with that person, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have never, and I know a lot of people, I know a lot about a lot of people, and I definitely feel like I'm doing it wrong, but a bigger piece of me finds that this is more common in the way that men connect with one another than women, and I don't feel like you are the expert on this topic, but I would say that I don't think that the connection is the same.
I would agree, and that is I feel like part of that is because of just it being the opposite sex. That sometimes, even if a man may see someone of your caliber killing it, we could really add value to each other. It could appear to the other people, oh, they crushing, or something's going on there. Oh, they're just what are they scheming over there? Something's going on between those two. No. But society has really conditioned us to think that oh man, if a man and a woman are working together, oh man, they're at inheritance juice. I say inheritance juice because we saw each other there, or they're in the car together. Man, something's going on. No, that's not the case. So I do agree. I've got 3 daughters. I do agree that it is different for women, but that doesn't mean different is a bad thing.
It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It definitely doesn't. But I do wonder around the sense of development that women face in a professional setting or entrepreneurial setting, because some might say like, no, women get things a lot easier, because they're women trying to, advance. But I would say a lot of the growth that I'm inspired by in my peers are the moments and the sweet moments that they spend with mentor, like folks, like outside of talking about work all the time, and when you think about really building a relationship and talking about things that happen outside of work, how do you make it not feel forced when it's either across multiple genders, or it's just not 2 men talking to one another. And again, you kind of just peek this with inside of me, but I think like that's something that I struggle with. And I would imagine that a lot of other female entrepreneurs would struggle with the same thing.
What do you think is the solution?
I think that some of it is really pushing forward this whole idea of like, you can't be afraid to start and do things the wrong way. I think you have to lead with sometimes inviting people to do things in group settings. But I do think that this stigma that society has, I think you can only like demystify it one step at a time, but it takes like people joining in together saying like it's important to develop women so that they have this level of opportunity, which is why I believe that like female entrepreneurs are so fierce. It's because how do you build so much with limited relationship?
Well, and it even goes to show the federal government is putting a preference on minority women in business, because there is a disadvantage in our society in pay and in C-suite offices across the country of women in these arenas, women entrepreneurs. So I think you just answered your own question. So my question to you is, when's your next women group, or when's your next group? I wouldn't even say women group. When's your next group?
Ooh, I'm glad that you asked, because starting in October for the whole last quarter, Tuesdays at the Liquid Lounge are going to be women's only nights where we come together, debrief, and build with one another.
What time?
Those are going to be at 7 to 11, and we're going to have specific interviews. We're going to have beverages, what is it, kombucha, wine, water. So it'll be a good time. I'm excited about it. I have no clue what it's going to look like, but I know the value is necessary.
Hey, and all you dudes that heard that at 6:30, you need to go to the Liquid Lounge and be peeping
Hey, make sure you
game.
put yourself in position.
Yeah, don't come if you don't. You not if you whack. Don't do that now. Why did you do that? That's awesome. Shout out. Let's give her snaps on that. Why did you do that?
I did that because I'm constantly in search of community of like-minded people. And sometimes I think when we think like-minded people, we think people who are exactly where we are in life at a specific season. But I think like-minded people are people you can tell have the same momentum as you sometimes. It could look like they have the same values as you, or it could look like they have the same level of curiosity that you have, and I find I don't meet a lot of people with the same level of curiosity that I have. I feel like I meet a lot of people who just don't know where to get started. And so what I believe is if I can share some of this confidence building, some of this it factor that we like to talk about, I tell people all the time, like, I don't know everything. I don't know a lot of things, but I am pretty confident that if you give me a problem, I am the best person to figure it out.
Solving it.
How do I duplicate that in people? Because I wonder if I could create that sense of, okay, I am worthy. Okay, it is okay to ask these questions. Okay, it is okay to show up in the room and be fully who I am. Yeah. Okay, it is okay for me to wear my natural hair in these spaces. Like, if you think about stress, people are trying to answer so many questions in advance based off of society that they're not even able to really, like, ask those questions to get themselves to the next level. And so that's why I'm creating this space, because I am sure that there are people that I can build with who just haven't been able to identify within themselves that that's something that they actually want or that they're capable of.
And something that's so important too in all these spaces, even as an entrepreneur, is I heard a quote that I try to live by as well. I love quotes, if you didn't know. But feelings buried alive don't die. Feelings buried alive don't die.
Explain that to us.
It is very important that you understand the drive behind individuals. Yeah. So in your group, in the Liquid Lounge with the ladies starting in October Tuesday in October's, ladies, you need to check out Ciore Liquid Lounge. But I think there's an element of self-discovery that needs to, like a budding rose, and I use that for men and women, like a budding rose that opens up, there needs to be a level of, why am I driven this way? Because the brain, as I studied the brain, not a brain pro, but what I have learned about leadership is that the first 7 years of our life have shaped the way we make decisions. Mm-hmm. So just think, I'm 35. How old are you?
28.
28. About
to be 29.
Hey,
next week, y'all.
No. Hey. October 14th.
September 12th.
Libra gang.
Virgo strong.
Yeah. Okay. So just think, 28 and 35, we make decisions based off our 7-year-old framework. The first 7 years of our lives.
That foundation.
And if that's truly the case, how were our first 7 years wired? How were we formed? What abuse were we around? What challenges did we have? What voices are in our head? Why are we triggered when we get angry or cry or be upset? And not that we need to go into this whole emotional thing, but to be a healthy person, not entrepreneur, to be a healthy person, what Shakespeare say, to thine own self be true. You need to know who you are inside.
That's so serious. I mean, that's so true, because it's almost like nature versus nurture in a sense as well. If you think about, there's been studies done about, how people grow up based off of people that grew up in like kind of quote unquote loving households versus people that might have not necessarily had that support or the care. And it shows kind of like their progression in life. And, it's very important. So AJ, I know you alluded to it a little bit earlier about, you're the first business owner in your family. You're kind of like breaking through that generational thought of being an employee rather than an owner. So like, what's something that you had to unlearn as you stepped into this new phase of being a CEO of Oasis?
Great question. For me, is how to celebrate.
Okay.
My drive for more, for building, for being a catalyst came from the framework of red disconnect notices on my door as a kid. The lack so drove me the opposite way that my drive, if I'm not careful, can run every single person away. And so I had to unlearn how to take time and celebrate the milestones, not for me, but for the people that helped me get there. Because I don't need that celebration. I don't, because I'm on to the next. I'm on to the next 10, matter of fact. But I need to honor their sacrifice. Man, what you did to help us get here. Man, that's a great job. Man, we're gonna have a staff get together. I actually despise those. But it's not for me. The selfless serving part of me knows, AJ, sit down and talk to every single employee. Tell them they did a good job. I don't need that. But it took others to help us get here. And so that is something that I had to unlearn is my drive. I have to be so self-aware when I'm getting off tilt. That means I haven't, either I'm not eating right, sleeping right, or living right. Those are, because when I react, something's wrong. I need to check my gauge. I didn't mean to yell at her. She just was asking where the stapler was, but I bit her head off. Something wrong with me, not you.
Right.
And so, yeah, to answer your question, that was one of the things I'm still unlearning is to celebrate along the way.
I love it. And I'm very similar because, sometimes I can have a level of intensity that it's how I push myself, how I drive myself. And it's like, you can understand like kind of the fire burning within you where you're like, okay, what's next? I got to achieve more. I'm on to the next project. And sometimes you're moving so fast that it doesn't allow you to be present.
Yeah.
And to really understand what's going on and like to look around you and say, I'm making some serious progress. And yeah, I still am ambitious. However, I need to appreciate what I've done thus far. And then, as a leader, when you can do that and you can celebrate, take that time to celebrate the grand opening, as opposed to like looking down the road and saying, okay, I want 1,000 franchises. Right now, it allows your team to really be there with you and see you as human. And I feel like when you're able to relate to people on that level and they see you for who you are, it adds a level of trust. So like, how important is when you're serving and you're in that leadership position, you have all eyes on you to make sure that you have established, like they trust you and on vice versa, you trust them as well. How important is that?
Disciplines are so important. Daily disciplines and people are calling it self-care, but I reframe it and calling the investment into yourself. I have things that I do every month. I have things that I do every quarter. I have things that I do every week that are for me. And if it's not my wife or children, nothing comes in between those. For example, on Wednesdays, I go to the chiropractor and I get a haircut. That is for me. Because I know my chiropractor is going to help that little stress. And there are people like, oh, AJ, I can only meet Wednesday at 5:30. Well, I will see you on a Tuesday or a Thursday because you're not doing Wednesday.
Boundaries.
Those boundaries, but those disciplines. Now, it was hard. But those disciplines are so important. They protect me and they protect myself. I get an IV they get vitamins. I get that once a month. I haven't had one in 6 weeks. This morning I woke up and I was like, my lack of discipline into investment to myself, I am feeling it like never before. And so I don't know what was the question, but discipline is so important. Having those disciplines. I don't know the question. My bad.
No, that was good. That was helpful. I mean, it supplements the conversation. And it was a matter of like, how important is established trust with your team trusting you and you trusting your team and leadership.
Ooh, okay. Let me ask this: is trust given or is trust earned?
Trust is earned.
100% earned.
It all depends on who you ask. It depends on who you ask, because you might ask somebody and they might give you a certain level of trust until you do something to tarnish that.
I will adjust and say I give trust, but I'm giving it to establish it and earn it with that person. And so I will say, like, it's one of the reasons I talk about grace. It's like I'm letting
was
you
grace
know.
Given or was grace earned?
It was given
Grace
to me.
can't. Grace,
so I give it to others. So I give it to others. Right. I agree. Like, it has to be given. I think, everything in life is a two-way street, all the way down to communication, right?
Mhm.
Like, you receive things based off of how you lead and how you give them out. And I just think that, I think trust is the way that it's established is by you leading with the mindset that this is a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to create that. So in essence, I would say you have to give it. But what's the right answer? Don't keep us waiting.
Everybody's different. Like, my perception is trust is earned. Trust is given. I give you trust until you ruin it.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, unfortunately, we had a situation with an employee that was in a high position. I trusted them from the very beginning. They had experience, super qualified, great references, great. Okay, on the job. A few weeks go by. I trust you. Creating manuals, we have systems. Okay, great. Did you do that? Yeah. Did you do that? Yeah. And that? Was that a part of the process? No. Today's your last day. I trusted them from the very beginning. But what they did is, I cannot be trusted with the very important systems that are in place. And so I had to take that trust back. And so it is, I think it depends on the person and the situation. So now the next person that came along, I was like, oh no, you got to earn this right here.
I was going to say, I'll say you grow trust. Okay. You can give them a little bit. But then you have to grow it. You're not gonna be making no mistakes over here.
Right,
you're gonna get to play in this safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Like boundaries.
There's certain non-negotiables that you gotta have when it comes to that. When you're establishing a relationship, and one thing that I heard that rang true to me is like, and we go back to the conversation of leadership, is like, as a leader, you should give your trust, but you should expect to have to earn everybody else's. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I give you this, like you said, you hired them. I gave you this level of trust and I expect you to do it. But as your leader, what does that mean for me? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important that.
That's the number one question people will always want to know is, what's in it for me?
What's in it for me?
Everybody's asking that in one way or another. You go for a job interview. What's the pay? You go, they give you, what jobs can I get with this degree? What does this car do for me and my kids? This home, how good is it? People, if you can answer that for people and understand everything is a negotiation through the filter of what's in it for me. If you can answer that for the other person, you win.
Yeah.
And not win in terms of a competition, but win like, okay, we're in partnership. Mm-hmm. Or you're the right one for it. I always try to, I shouldn't say always, man. I try to get to that first, not by asking them, but thinking, if I was on the other side, what's in it for me? What would they want? If I can answer that for them, we got a deal.
I will tell you this conversation, it's so good. I can tell that if we don't recap some of the nuggets, we're going to be here for a while.
All day, baby.
We're going to be here for a while. So you said a couple of things today that I want to spit out consecutively, because for y'all listening, for the first time, and for the folks who didn't catch the beginning of the show, there's been so much value that has been added, starting with, everything we want and need is outside of our comfort zone. For the people who are listening, make sure you join your local chamber so that you're in the know, you're getting value, creating value. one thing you said that stuck out to me as an operations and results driven person is, as an owner, you have to know your metrics. People are always asking, like, oh, well, how well are you doing? For you to be like, oh, I can follow up with you on that. It's like you missed your moment, So, like, if you really take pride in something and you are taking ownership of it, whether you are the technical boss or not, you should know your metrics. Another thing that you said.
Pause.
Go ahead.
If you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it.
Ooh, if it can't be measured, it can't be multiplied. I have heard that one.
I gotta type that one out. Say that one again.
If it can't be measured, it can't be multiplied.
Fire.
I also loved the analogy you talked about around managing expectations in advance. You talked about when you go in and you have someone who's serving you. Hey, just to let you know, this is what I'm expecting to do for you, and really setting the tone for those relationships. And I also love that you really zoned into more means more, because a lot of times I think sometimes we only see one side of the more. Oh, there's going to be more problems, but you don't understand what the more reward looks like. Mm-hmm. Or it's like, oh, I want to get more reward, but then you're not calibrated to know that there's going to be more problems. Mm. How do you address life with a certain layer of perspective? That's super important. And then knowing that growth isn't automatic, it's intentional. It is super, super important to know that we don't grow because everything, enables us at times. I think one thing you said is sometimes people who try to put a limit on you, you can grow in spite of those things. Mm-hmm. You can grow around those things. You can grow beyond the boundaries that people want to put in place for you because, your fruit is evident. And then the last thing you said was, it wasn't the last thing you said, but one of the things that I want to leave people with is know how to celebrate. For me, like, this is something that I learned within the last year. I had to go do a very public exercise for therapy and asking people, what are some things you think I could appreciate more? I'm asking my boss, my coworkers, my parents, my siblings, and everyone said, at times we feel like you just don't know how much you've accomplished. Like, you could take some time to smell the roses. You could take some time to just, like, really awe in what has been done. It's like, you're always going. And you're great, and you're always looking for the next thing, but that constant desire to achieve creates a very, like, non-peaceful place for a lot of people because you're never satisfied, like, super insatiable. And so understanding when it's time to celebrate. Now, people will tell me all the time, like, you are always celebrating. I'm like, who else is going to do it? But it paces me when I can celebrate in the moment, regardless of if good things are happening or bad things are happening. It allows me to create a place of peace for other people to come to.
What alternate ego, as I say, was that birthed out of? If feelings buried alive don't die, what was that drive for you?
The drive for me to achieve was, I didn't want to be known as a failure. I thought failure was possible. I thought failure was something that depleted my value, but then I learned that failure isn't something.
What did that stem from?
Failure?
Yeah.
It stemmed from those first 7 years of my life that we kind of talked about earlier. But I've been doing the work. I've been doing the work. John,
She been on it. That's good. Self-awareness is healthy. That's good.
It's not only is it healthy, but when you know how to do it, you can empower other people to do it. And the only way people can optimize their output in this world is through self-discovery, like you said.
Come on.
And this brings me to another point that we kind of discussed earlier, John, is a lot of people, a lot of organizations, the U.S. right now is doing everything they can to put entrepreneurship resources, access, capital into the hands of minority entrepreneurs. And so many people are asking the question, why isn't it working? What is it that we are missing? And I deeply believe is because we're not investing in the self-discovery within that person. People are so often, attributing this to mental health, but a lot of times when we think mental health, we're thinking like trauma with a capital T, not who are we and do we deserve to actually live the life that we want? Do we deserve to have a dream? You know, you have to tackle that within a lot of people that was stolen from in their childhood before they can take advantage of these resources and access that people are deciding they want to give right now. So it's like, it's not a disconnect between, are the resources available? Thank you for making those available. But how do we invest into that sense of self-discovery that people have so they can stop living in fight or flight? We want this right now, but they can actually build, innovate, create, thrive.
So good.
I love it. I love it.
What was your 7-year filter? Everybody's here.
Yeah, it's about that time. For me, it's really just kind of seeing like the best of both worlds, like seeing like opposite sides of the spectrum, I should say. Seeing, my parents like giving all that they got to provide and to be able to make sure that we have the best of the best that they're able to give to us. However, only being able to come up with so much, and but at the same time laying a foundation as to where I can achieve more. I'm thankful for my quote unquote first 7 years, because I feel like I was given like the skills and the tools to do whatever I want. And to believe that I can go get whatever I need, whatever I desire. I come from a family of educators. They talked about how important education and getting a degree is, and kind of following that structure. And also at the same time, my grandfather, he was more blue collar. So I feel like I had that balance of, education, but at the same time, like hard work and being able to like contribute in a way that's a little bit more hands-on. And from there, it made me just see, where my family has brought me to go back from generations to like 3 generations back to where, my great grandparents were, cleaning houses, cleaning bathrooms just to be able to provide for their kids to go to school. And they were able to pay for that out of pocket. And then seeing that progression through generations, and then seeing like me get here, I feel like I'm saying all to say, I feel like I have a responsibility to carry the torch.
Yeah.
So for me, my ambition is continuing to provide for the generations that come after me, and being able to give them a life that, where they don't have to ever want for anything.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important, and being able to expose them so they even further understand that anything that they want is possible. I think it's so important. I think exposure and education are 2 of the biggest things that really drive us to be successful. Yeah. Because when you know that you can have more, you'll go get it. If you're limited in your thinking and you think I can only do so much, maybe you don't even understand that college could be a possibility for you. So I'm extremely thankful for my upbringing and my foundation, because I understand that I don't even say the sky's the limit. I'm like, I can bust through the sky.
Come on.
I can do whatever.
Whatever's beyond that.
I can do whatever I want. If y'all land on the moon, I'm trying to get to Mars.
Come on,
you know Mars. What I'm saying? Like, I'm not stopping. So, we've been saying this for a long time on the stimulus. Like, we are literally building for generations and generations and generations.
What does the stimulus mean? What does stimulus mean?
I want Ciore to take this one away.
Well, the stimulus was really birthed out of John and I align on mindset. And one of the biggest things that he and I both knew is the importance of getting started. Both he and I are coming from corporate backgrounds, but very entrenched in entrepreneurship now. And as we were just discussing everything that we had learned and everything we envisioned for ourselves, it's just like, it's really wild to try to pinpoint what the moment was that got you started. And when we think about what we want to give back, we want to be able to stimulate not just people's mindsets, but to stimulate their business and to stimulate their legacy.
I looked it up. Stimulus, a thing that rouses activity or energy in someone or something.
Not just a check.
Yeah, not just a check.
Yeah.
But it arouses activity or energy. So this show is doing just that. It causes people to have an arousal, but hopefully an arousal toward an activity or an energy towards something or someone.
Yep. And you heard it here first, y'all.
Hey,
you heard it here first.
Stimulus. You gotta whisper that too.
Hey,
man, AJ, this has been incredible. You brought exactly the energy that we needed on our show today, man.
Wow.
And I'm glad you was able to be here with us and share your insights. And I feel like we're all a part of history. Like, we're seeing history in the making, seeing something that's much bigger than ourselves. happen with you and Oasis, and then really just bringing the community together within that. So I just want to thank you for being on our show today.
Man, I'm honored to serve. Check out the Stimulus, then check out Liquid
Lounge.
Liquid Lounge
Yeah.
every Tuesday in October. And then after that, come to Oasis, baby, every day.
Man, where else can they find you though, man? Oasis Worlds, man.
Oasis, we have Instagram, Oasis Fresh Market, same with Facebook, or just check out AJ, Instagram, Facebook. Be my honor to serve you. Come to the Oasis, more than just groceries, equipping for life, baby.
I love it. I love it. Do you have a final piece that you want to leave the people with?
Man, final piece. They will know you by your fruit, and will your fruit remain? Fruit can only grow, a seed can only be birthed in the environment of its soil. The soil is who you're around, the thoughts that you think. So, who are you around? What are the thoughts that you think? What are the steps that you're taking? And when do you want it by? That will be the steps towards you having fruit. Come to the Oasis.
The Oasis. I love it. I love it. Well, y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in with us today here on The Stimulus. I hope y'all are ready to take on the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of the month. Let's go ahead and get to it. Our stimulators, we love you. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you later.